new to all of us, maybe unless you are from a different cohort. But for cohort 19, it's new to all of us. So we are going to discuss it and then try to build something around this. So, Ahmed, I don't know if you are ready yet or us to start.
Yeah, just start. Yeah, I'm ready. Just start. Yeah.
All right. So, what we're going to tackle today is going to be, let's say, a combination of classes, right? And from here, we've talked about inheritance. Right? We've handled inheritance before. We've also talked about instantiating an object or instantiating objects from a class, right? And like a few other things as well, right? Then we also talked about serialization and deserialization. What we'll be using today will be JSON, right? Which is the one that we've been writing. Deserialization. There we go. Okay. And then deserialization. Okay. It's like I can't write good English today. Deserialization. Hopefully that's correct now. What a game. Probably I should just copy this and just put it here and just put D at the end. Oh, it is there. Okay. Okay. Well, probably. Oh, okay. It's the browser not knowing that, I guess. So, okay. So then the other thing we're going to talk about is the command. Let's say, yeah, let's say the command interpreter. Right. So before we like most of the focus would be on JSON over here, as well as also testing, right? So the command interpreter maybe in Python is going to be the newest thing that we've not tackled so far in ALX, but then for classes, serialization, deserialization, we've done that. We've also written lots of test cases, right? So before anything, I would like us to maybe talk through our understanding of this so far. Like, is it good to, or is it okay to assume that we are all okay with handling classes, inheritance, instantiating objects, working with, let's say, class methods, then also working with static methods, right? Like the concept of classes or the concept of object-oriented programming. Are we all okay with it up to this point? Just so that maybe we can know how to. Yes, I mean.
Okay. Okay. So my I thought since I know everybody here has gone through all of this, but then since this is it's like a continuation of something new, I think we should just start with classes and then go to inheritance, instantiating objects from a class methods, static methods, serialization, deserialization, and then go to the command interpreter. Up to that point, I think, in case anybody didn't get a concept well, you can ask a question so that we can clarify it, or maybe in case there's another tip that one of us don't know, he can add up onto it, because we're all here to learn, and your learning style is different from my learning style. Because the other time we were learning about, I think it was, we were learning about inheritance. Samson showed me something that I didn't know about, and then so I was happy that I went through in the inheritance session with him. But then during that time we were only two, so I think we should just start from the beginning, because this session is normally supposed to last for 2 hours, and since this whole week we're going to focus on this project, so I think we should just go through it all. Or what do you guys think? Just that is only a suggestion. In case anyone else has anything else to say, you're just free. This is a discussion.
Okay, noted. Israel, what's that? What do you think about that? We start
I
with
think my for me, I think the only place that I haven't really touched enough in OP is the static methods. I know how to use them, but really why they are used, I haven't really gone through it. But the rest, I think I have little. I have knowledge on those other ones. But for the sake of others and for the sake of learning and rehearsing the things we've learned before, if it is possible and if there will be time to just go through them, it will be nice to.
okay. And Jason, Jason, are you there? Okay. Um, all right. So looks like we probably might have to start from that the classes, and okay. So okay, let's begin. All right. So I might start from a place where I might assume a few things, but I'll try not to assume a lot. Yeah. Okay. So we've been handling a few things up to this point. Oh, sorry, understood. Okay. So with the classes, right? It's everything that we know up to this point and what we are going to talk about. Okay, so if you have used Python before, everything that you work with a Python or with Python is known to be an object, and every object comes from a class. Okay, so everything that you've used in Python so far, strings, integers, everything you've used so far comes from a class. That's why we call them objects, because every time we create something or in Python, we basically create an instance of something we call a class, which becomes the object, right? So, for instance, what I'm trying to say is this: I'll bring up my interactive console. Welcome, Samson. So, is it clear enough, or maybe I should increase it a bit? Yeah, mate.
Oh, I just wanted to say increase it a bit, but I think it's okay right now.
All right, great. Okay. So, what I was saying is that, let's say, for instance, when I do something like, let's say, a is equal to 10, right? Just by doing this, I've created an object, and this object came from a particular place, and that place that is coming from is what we call the class, right? So, by this, we can figure out which class this guy is coming from, or from where we were able to get this instance from, or this object from, right? So when we do this, we can use a function called type. I can say type A, and then it tells me that it is the integer class, right? So here, the 10 that we have over here is actually coming from the class called integer, or the integer class. In the same way, when I have something like, let's say, s is equal to hello, like this is a string. So we can assume that this is also going to come from the string class. Oops, sorry, S. So you can see that here is also coming from this over here. So this goes back to what I was saying, is that saying that everything that we work with in Python is an object, and every time we instantiate or every time we define anything in Python is really coming from a specific class in Python. But some of these things have been already defined for us to use. So what we can also do is that we can also define our own classes, similar to how we were able to create structs in C, right? This is like the similar thing, but then with a few more things that we can do. Okay, so we have the integer class, the string class, the float class, everything you can think about. Let's say, for instance, I have, let's say, numbers is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So here also, if I do type numbers, you can see that this is coming from the list class, right? So everything we do in Python is coming from a specific class. Okay, so what we can do is that, well, sometimes we want a specific thing to happen, or let's say a specific data type that doesn't come by default with Python. So we will have to create our own. And to create our own, that's when we need to create classes. So classes are really just, let's say, a factory for creating objects. Okay, so like a class is basically like a factory where we have many moving parts. We have lots of machinery going in over there that we are able to create different things coming out of that class or that factory, if you will, right? So that's really what a class is. It's an environment where we are able to use to create multiple objects. Okay, so for instance, we can create multiple lists without thinking about it. We can create integers. We can create lots of them, right? So we're able to do that because of the classes that we have. So if we think about classes, we're really thinking of it in terms of a factory where we are able to create multiple All right. Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. My mic got muted. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Right.
Good. Okay. So that's how we come about with objects, right? So since we are trying to create something specific to our use, right? Maybe we are trying to um, define some real world entity, right? And that's really the idea of having classes. It's a way that we're able to model things. Okay, real world stuff, a dog, a car, a person, many things. Right. So Python has already given us blueprints that we can use to create integers, strings, lists by default for us to use without worrying about them. Right. But then let's say that we are trying to write some code that is supposed to represent the people of ALX, right? So let's say we're talking about a student, right? A student will have a name, a student will have different things, right? And then currently, if we are trying to do that same thing in with the normal Python thing that we have, it might be a little bit hard to work with, right? So let's say we can think of it in this way. We can say that okay, well, we can use a dictionary where we can store the names of the different students. That's one way to go about it. But then there are other things that we may want to model which might not be very good, right? A student will have, let's say, let's work with this, and I'll be asking you for your help as well. So since we've all been students some way somehow in our life, let's maybe let's start a few things that are particular to a student, right? And these things that we are going to list out are what we would say the attributes of the student, and they are similar to what we would be talking about when we start saying attributes in classes. Okay, so as a student, what do you think are one of your attributes? Like, what are some of the things that you think a student possesses? Anyone can shoot.
A name.
A name,
I used to have a registration number.
a registration number. Great.
I think an age.
An age. Right. Okay.
Think a phone number.
Anyone phone number. Right. You probably have to hear another voice.
Okay.
Don't forget the course.
Exactly. Very important. All right.
The
So
cohort. Cohort. Cohort.
okay, okay, cohorts. Okay, all right. So let's deal with these ones over here. So we can see that currently we have some few details that we can keep for students, and if we um, try to work with this by default, right? We'll probably do something like this. If we didn't have the ability to work with classes, right? This is how it might look like. Let's say we have student one, right? So you say student one's name is equal to let's say something, and then student one age. I'm going to assume this one. All right. So let's say if I'm correct to, I don't know, it's a coincidence. I don't know. Right. Student one's let's say course equal to let's say electrical engineering. Right. You can see how many variables I'm creating so far for just this. Let's say registration number. I'll just keep it short. Registration number. Let's say I'll just make this one um, 4509. Right. Just that. And like I'm just trying to let you see what is happening so far. Currently, I have four variables just for student one, and there's more. I'm not giving the age, the phone number, the cohorts yet. So you can see how many variables so far I need to have just for one student. What about two students? What about three? Think about 100, right? So you see, this wouldn't scale very well. And how we can curb this thing is by having the class. So the class is a way that we can sort of represent this person in a way that, well, when we have that class, everything within or everything that is um, needed for this person or this student is like I don't want to use okay well is all grouped into that class and we don't have to worry about certain things, so they have been abstracted in the sense that we do not have to worry about those things, and a few things have also been implemented in certain ways that we do not care or we don't have to even worry about, which we may say is called encapsulation, right? But for now, we are going to just think through a few of the normal things and try not to be using certain words so much. But once we get the understanding, then we can maybe start working with those maybe technical words, but they are not really hard to wrap your head around. So you can see that just for one student, we had to write different variables for all of these students, or sorry, for all of these attributes, right? But there's a better way to do that, and that's by having classes. Okay, so here what we have to do is to really just have our own data type, just like the string, the integers, the floats, all those things. Right? We can have a specific way that we want our data type to be defined. So you can say that, well, to have a student data type, I'll need it to be like this or be like that. Okay. So now the real thing that is going to happen is there's already a keyword for that, and what we are about to do here, we'll take it from different steps, and then we'll get into a few other things. So the only thing that we really need to do is to have a class, and a class, like I said, is simply a factory. It's like a factory for creating objects or creating instances of that class. And we mentioned that we have different classes already provided to us from or by Python. And to create that, it's as simply as just saying class and then the name of the class that we are trying to create. And we're trying to create or to model a student. Right? So when you think about classes, you are thinking about modeling a human, or not a human being per se, but modeling something that is realistic, like a student in our case. And by convention, what we do is we name it with a capital letter. right? So here, that's the first thing I will do. Then I can just do this and just say pass. Just by doing this, I have a new data type that I can use for my usage. Another person can use it, and anybody can use that, right? So now I have a student class, and now you can see that previously I had to do something like student one name, student two underscore eight, student one underscore course, right? And so far we've not gotten much into it yet, so there's still more to do. Okay, but then here, what I can do is I can still say that student one is equal to student. So here now I am instantiating, or I'm creating an object from that factory. Okay, so when I do this, I've created an object from the student class, and then when I say type of student one, I can see that it's coming from the student class, right? And this main over here is just showing that it's within here, like where I am currently. That's where it's getting it from. We don't have to worry about that yet. All that we need to see is the student. Right? So it's an instance of the student class. So now I can go ahead and then say that, well, the student's name is something like this. And we do that with a dot operator. So I can say student one dot name is equal to some, I can do the same thing, something, Ikeno, right? Student one dot age is equal to 24, right? So here now, I would like you to look at the difference. Here I had 1, 2, 3, 4 variables just to do these things. But here I'm having just one variable, and I am getting, or I'm writing different attributes, right? The attribute that we mentioned over here. Now I am assigning those attributes to this student, right? And we do that using the dot operator. Okay, this is not the best yet, but you'll see how it's also working, right? So I can say student one dot course is equal to electrical engineering one more time, and then student one dot registration number is equal to 4509, right? So now when I do student one, this will just show me like some date, like some address where this object is stored in memory. Okay, but then now what we have done is that we have created an instance of a class, basically saying that we have gotten, let's say, a product from our factory, right? So we can also create different students by just doing students two is equal to students, right? And then we can go ahead and then do the same thing. But you can see that this doesn't really solve our problem of just having a student being something that is like everything abstracted nicely, that we don't have to worry about all of these. You can see that still we are having to write about the same number of lines of code just as we did for the previous one. And let's fix that real quick. So for that purposes, doing it in this interactive mode wouldn't be the best option, and it wouldn't be the best use of our time. So what I would like to do is to go inside of a file and then work from that side instead. Okay, so I'll exit out of here, and then we would create something similar to what we just did here. So I'll clear my screen and come to this side, and then let's say class. I'll call it students.py, just so that it is in line with what we are trying to do. I'll get my shebang ready. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll just say class students. So I'm just doing the same thing one more time. All right, and then we did pass in the beginning, but as I was saying, if we are trying to define a class that is going to be able to do a few things, right? Let's say that in a factory that is supposed to produce things, we expect that, well, by the time we get it, some things have already been processed for us, and all that we do is to just make things simple for ourselves, right? So the first thing that is really part of a class is that it can do something called initialization. And initialization is just something similar to what we were doing, whereby we did something like student one equals to student, and then we came down and then we're saying student one dot name is equal to that, right? What if we could do all of that on one line without having to worry about a lot of things? And let's see how that's going to work. Right. So here you can do something like this. And this is how it works. It's called the Danda method, or double underscore, or let's say the magic method. Okay, so here we have the double underscore, which is going to be the what we call the initializer. It's just like a function, but in a class. And so you hear me call them methods. So a method is also a function, just that it happens to be in a class. Okay, so the other thing is that this guy over here is going to take in a very special argument, which is called a self. And this self means that this is going to be the student we are talking about. For example, student one, student two, student three. So this self here is going to talk about student one or student two or whatever student we are talking about. So this is a special variable, sorry, a special keyword that we don't see in our normal functions, right? So this self is very important to classes. Okay. And then now the next thing that is going to take is going to be the specific things that we would like it to have. For example, the name, the registration number, the age, phone number, course, cohorts, anything else that we want it to take. All right. So for this over here, um, I'll limit it to only the name and the course, and let's say probably their, okay, since we are in ALX, I'll probably use the cohort and the course, right? So name, um, course, cohort, and I think uh, we have student IDs, right? But just all right. Let me ask from you. Let's say I think we can use the name, the course, the cohort, and maybe their age. Do you think we should use something else, or should I limit the number of things we are getting so far?
Yeah, we can start with that.
Okay. So again, these things are called attributes, and when you see them in classes, they are also called attributes. But before anything else, when you see me typing them here, they are not yet attributes. They are parameters, right? Just like functions take parameters. They become attributes when they are part of the class. Okay, so let that difference be clear. Okay, so we are taking the name, the age, um, the course, and their cohort. Okay, and then now all that we're going to do is we are now going to assign these values to the specific instance. So every time we create a, an instance of the class, this initializer or this constructor is going to be the first person that's going to be run. So once it is run, it's going to set those things up. It's going to mix everything up, put everything where it's supposed to be, then sets everything up ready for your usage. Okay, so this is just like to take it out of uh, coding, but really it's going to be the first function that's going to be run to get things started. So now when I do this, what I have to do is now call in the self. Remember why I said that the self is like special keyword. It's going to be mapping directly onto the specific instance that we created. So if that still doesn't make sense, I was saying that, let's say when we do something like student one equal to students, like the class student, we are basically creating an instance of this. So whenever we say self, the self is going to point to this over here, right? So um, every time we say self at this point, it's going to point to that. In the same way, when we have student two equal to student, right? every time we reference student two, the self is going to be pointing to the specific instance. So essentially, every time we call the self, we are talking about the specific instance of the student, right? So whenever we are working with student two and we do anything regarding the student's class, it's going to be mapping back onto the specific instance, which is student two, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Yes, I see your hand is up.
Okay, I want to add something to your explanation. Like, I think the self is used to create instances of different, like attributes of different types. Like, you create just uh, from what you are explaining, you want to have student one, student two, student three. So the self will like help to create those attributes. If you didn't use self, you wouldn't have to create as like different types of different attributes that you want. You can just create one and they keep changing. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Um, okay. I'm trying to like understand that. Or if you could rephrase, or if anyone else understands better, maybe you can help me to understand.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
What is your problem? What I just need drinking now?
Okay. So
Uh,
or maybe if yeah, Israel, go ahead.
yeah. I think he was trying to say that the self is used to create attributes or something like that, but I really don't think so. I think why self is added to these specialized functions known as methods is so that when you create an instance, the method will be available for that instance. I don't know if that is also part of what it is.
Okay, um, that's also valid. That the self is not okay. Something. Let's go ahead.
Thank you, Maxwell. I think I would also like to comment on self, and then there are two variables that you've created: student one and student two. And what I would like to say is, most of the time, people don't give those variables the name, but the right name for these variables are reference variables. From self, the one that we have created, the two student one and two. Uh, I normally use this analogy whereby you have the screen and the remote. You realize that for the screen, you can use it even without the remote. But again, if you have the remote, you're able to use the screen. So with the remote, you're able to access, you can change the channel, maybe change the mode. You see, the same thing applies with self. So it's a reference variable. It helps you to refer to the object. In that way, you are able to perform required options, and such as accessing the properties, the methods, etc. But those are the two main. So it's possible for an object to have and multiple reference variables, and one of them is self. The other one is maybe student one, student two. They're different. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for that. Okay. So I hope that is also clear, right? That the self is just a way that we are able to map back to the object that was created from that class. So going back to our code, right? So what we're going to do now is to set the attributes, and here what we call this is going to be an instance attribute, okay, because it has the okay something.
Something I forgot to mention is
Okay.
Self is not rigid. You can give it any name as long as it will help you to access, to refer to the object. You can choose to say
Yes, yes.
y dot name. You can choose
Yeah.
to say x dot name. As long as it's giving you that reference point. But the reason why most of
Yeah.
the time you're using self is a convention. Yeah. It's an agreement among most of programmers to use it for just for uniformity. So something people should also notice is that the convention of using the word self. You can use the word def, may, I am, yeah, whichever.
Okay. So what you are saying, we could do something like we can change itself over here to something else. Um, if you could give him something, I want to clarify what you mentioned. I could have said, can you me?
Is
Yes,
anyone
I
is
mean,
anyone hearing me?
I
think
think
it's
I think you're
network.
breaking.
I'm struggling. I think there's
Yeah,
network
from your
oh,
issues
side, Max.
from your end.
We were not able to hear you.
oh, sorry. Am I audible now?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes,
it's
yes.
better now.
yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was asking that you were saying that here could be like a self could be something like dev or something like that. Is this how you meant?
Yes. You can give it any word. You can say maybe kelf, delf. You can even say my.
So you can say something like this,
Yes,
and you can still reference and then say something like that.
yes.
Okay, okay. So maybe for the sake of those who probably are not very conversant with this one, and to be let's say compliant with um, standards, we would use the self as it is, let's say, the widely accepted way of doing that, right? But if anyone is also interested in going through that other way too, maybe we can explore that. Okay, just so that maybe
Yes.
we can
And
yeah,
just to add on that, you find that maybe sometime someone may forget to provide the reference variable to a point that you are starting with the name, the age, course, maybe cohort. You forgot the self. In that case, you realize that Python will use the first. Take, for example, if you started with name, it will going to use the
yeah,
name as the reference variable. So,
yeah.
yes, yeah, something like that.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's
good.
just a convention that we tend to use the word self because of informity. But again, it's
Yeah,
not a keyword. Yeah, something else.
all right. So if you like to go, let's say, explore through that, please do. Right. So, but for this one, what we're going to do is to use this self argument or this self for this method, or for this meeting, we'll call it a keyword. Right. Yeah. Let's just call it a keyword. So this here we would have to say self dot that. So it's similar to when we're doing sorry, we're doing student one dot name, student one dot that, right? So here, what we just say is self dot name is equal to the name, and also Samsung was also making the point that here the name over here doesn't really have to be that, like the same way, but we just use this like these names to be the same just so that it's easier to just work with, right? So this name over here could have been something all different, or even this parameter over here could have been something all different. Right? But we just do the same thing here just to make it uniform or easier to work with. So we just say self dot name is equal to name, then self dot age is equal to age, self dot course is equal to the course, and then self dot cohort is equal to cohort. All right. So there are a few other things that we could do, but for now we will just leave it as it is. And then here we will just go ahead and hey, work with that. Just work with this one over here. So now what I'll do is I'll create a new student called student one, and then I'll just pass in student. Right. But now, just like any function, we have parameters now. So we would have to pass in those parameters. And now the other thing here is that this self is implicit, if we should say. So this self is going to be the argument, sorry, the object we are creating. So we don't pass in self like this when we are instantiating object, right? We just pass in the other things, like the other ones. The self is the actual object, so we don't pass in that. So here, the first thing we need to work with is the name. Oops. The name, which is, yeah, name, like that. The age was 24. The course, electrical engineering. And then the cohort is 19, right? So now you can see that we've created a new object from the student class. It's still the same thing, right? But this time around we have let's say a machinery which is able to do this for us quickly. Okay, yes. So Samson mentioned that the PVM, which is called the Python virtual machine, is in charge of that. So all these are, let's say, advanced learning that you might want to go into. Okay, but these things help you to understand the things much better. So if you don't get what I'm trying to say, you can check the comment section. Samson mentioned something like that. Okay, so now we have student one, but then when we try to do something like print student one like this, we would have something not very good in our case, right? So let me just make this a little bigger. Okay, so we have this class or this file over here. So let's try and then run it. So as part of that, just make it easy, I'll just say change mode plus x and then student.py. Okay, so I run this student.py, but then you can see that we are still getting this over here, the student objects at a particular place in memory, right? And then you realize that when we did something like the string and we printed it, we were able to see like it's in a nice way, right? But then here we are not able to see it in this way. But well, that's not really a problem. We can fix that. Okay, so just like this method over here that we work with, the init method, which is the constructor or the initializer, there's other special methods or special functions, or what we say are magic methods, or other times you hear them called dunder methods. The dunder just means double underscore methods. So here we also have another one called the dunder string or dunder str. So this is going to be like this, and what it does is that it is what the print function or is going to return a string representation of the object we are looking at. So this is also going to take the self as its first argument or parameter. So now all that there is going to do is to just print out or return a string representation of what we are trying to work with. So this is going to just be something like this. And maybe for our use case, let's say that we are going to do this instead. We're going to say that whenever we say print the student, right, we are going to get the name of the student, the name of the student. Well, okay, well, we have the name of the student, the age, the course, and then yeah, they are cohorts, right? So maybe we can have them in this way, just so that it looks neat and clean, right? So that's what we can use the str method for. There's also another one we call the this one over here, this here. But then this one here is also used mostly for developers, right? It's not normally used to show information to developers, something similar to what we saw over here, like that. So this is normally used when developers are looking at the code, or we use this one over here to show that. Okay, but for now, let's work with the str. Okay, so now let's do what we said we're going to do. We're going to return the the name of the person, their age, their course, and their cohort. So using F strings, we just say name that, and then we're going to get a name of the person we are talking about, or the student. So this way, and then we're also going to say the age is going to be self.age, and then the course also self.course. Then we're also going to have the cohort. My system usually does that automatically for me. I've set it to be 80 characters per line, so I'll fix that soon. So that's going to be self.cohort. Okay, so just to make sure that this is going to work fine, what I'll do is I'll break it out onto multiple lines. So calls like that, and then here I'm going to have this. And then okay, so what we're going to return is going to be just as we said, the name of the person, their course, their age, and their cohort. So let's see whether this works as we expect. Right, so I'll print that out. Oops. Okay, my bad. So here you can see that it's working all right, but then I didn't bring in the F string on this other line because we broke it on the other line. So that's what happened. Okay. So like that. Okay. So just to keep it simple and clean, I'll rather bring it here so that it's easier to look at it. All right. So because of the 80 characters per line, that's why it had to be broken into something like this. Right? But the actual way of breaking it down can be different. So this is how I do it. So here now I can go ahead and then I see the name of the user, their age, the course they're having, and then their cohort. So now we have a class which can be, let's say, instantiated and also printed out nicely. All right. So in a nutshell, this is really what we mean by
Defer.
come again.
A student may, yeah, a student might want to defer. Defer.
Okay, a student might want to defer. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
okay, let's say this. Okay, so defer. Things the student can do. All right. Any more?
We can do tasks.
Do tasks. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's take maybe one or two more. What do you think is something that maybe a student would usually do, or when you were a student, or okay, when you are a student, what are you doing, or what were you doing?
A student can participate in extra curriculum activities such as leadership or even play football. I don't know how we are going to put that.
Exactly. Uh, let's say, how about we call, let's say, give position, something like that, like, or hold position, something like to hold a position or something.
A student can also attend PLDs.
Okay, okay, attend PLDs. All right. So,
So students can engage on sports.
engage in sports. All right, great. Okay, all right, okay. So, we probably wouldn't do all of these, and we also, I mean, but once we do, we may not go into like the specific ways on doing it exactly like that way, right? But enough to maybe handle a few of our to understand a few things. Okay, so let's try to work with the defer, right? So let's just say that when a student wants to defer, probably there'll be a few things, right? So usually when a student wants to defer, from what I've seen so far, they would have to maybe specify the next cohort they would want to be admitted into. And for our simple thing we are trying to do here, there's no limit on the cohort. So don't worry about ALX cohorts limitation. So what I'll start with is that let's say which cohort to defer to. All right. Is there anything else that you think um, should be handled? So,
I
like
think for
when
now we should just use the ones that you listen.
come again?
I mean, I think we should just use the ones that you listen.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just saying that like we are trying to write the defer function. So I'm saying that let's say as part of the deferring, we may ask them which cohort they would want to defer to. Uh, so like, is there any other thing that we can ask them also or something like that?
They can also ask you like where you want to start from with that set of cohort, like the projects where you would want to start from. You want to start at fresh or do you want to start at a particular project?
Okay. So let's say start afresh or continue where you left off. All right.
Hey, excuse Maxwell.
Yes.
I think somebody's hand is up. A big group has raised his hand for a while now.
Yeah, I did it. What's up?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking we might need to know which cohort he is differing from.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's differing to where which cohort he is at.
Okay. Okay. So I'll write that, but I would also like to like rectify or clarify something. You see that when we are creating the students, we ask them their cohort, so we already know the cohort they are coming from, right?
But we might have a number of students, and the students may be from different cohorts. That's my line of that.
Okay. Well, that's also valid, but then you see that only one student will like would like to defer at the time. So, take for instance, on your internet when you're going to defer, it's just you, right? And we already know that you are in cohort 1 blended or cohort 20 or cohort 19 or cohort whatever. Right. So that cohort that you're already in is, let's say, already known. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for now, let's just examine. So okay. So now let's go to the our class and then define this method. Right. So all that we just say is we call this method here called as defer. Right. And again, the self is important that we bring it there. Then we said that we are going to ask two questions. Right. So let's say we call this two cohorts. And then here we would also have another thing, let's say option. I'm not feeling very, let's say, pretty, but like the option here is going to be the whether they want to start afresh or uh, continue where they left from. And since everything we know about functions are still valid in this case here, all we can do is that we can say that um, the option is to uh, start afresh by default, right? Or we could have set it to be something specific or anything that we wanted, right? But let's say that um, for this one here, we want the default option to be start afresh if they don't provide anything. And I hope that makes sense. Like this is not specific to classes; it's coming from functions. Okay, so though we are talking about methods, everything with functions still remain the same. Okay, so now we are going to just say something like this. Let's just say that we would print a message to them saying that yeah, still printf catches me off guard sometimes. Okay, so we're just going to say that sorry to see you go. See you go. Okay, let's bring in the f string. Oops, f string. All right, the f string. Then you just say that sorry to see you go self dot name. Okay, then we're just going to be printing a few things. You've referred to cohorts. Okay, not 19. Um, to cohorts. Right. Right. You refer to cohorts there, and then the last thing that we do is this, uh, and you have chosen to option, right? Let's just say that. All right. And as a final thing, before we forget, you see that we are going to set their cohort to the new cohort that they've chosen to defer to, right? So now what we have to do is now set the cohort to the current cohort that they have or they are trying to go to. Right. So currently here we are just trying to make it very simple as much as possible to like for ourselves. Right. So here we just say that oh we are sorry to see you go this person. You have deferred to this cohort and you've chosen to whatever option that they give. If they don't give a specific option, it's going to be start afresh. Right. So, or we can say continue when we are passing in the argument. Right. So let's see how this function here is going to also work. So now we are going to say that student one dot defer. Right, and then what we have to give is, let's say currently he is in cohort 19. All right, so here we are not doing lots of checks. All right, Um, that's because of time, right? So let's say they are referring to cohort 22, right? And then what they want to do is to let's say let's just say they only provided the first option, which is a keyword, sorry, a positional argument. Okay, so the option will be by default to start afresh, right? But before anything, what we'll do is to, let's say, just so that it's a little bit more better, let's just say if the self dot um, cohorts that they are inside is equal to the two cohorts, like the cohort that they are trying to go to, we just print and then say that defer to, let's say, what we say is can't defer to the same cohort. All right, so that's what we would say. Then we just return out of this function. Right. So hopefully that makes sense to us so far. Right. If someone is trying to defer to the same cohort, it doesn't make sense. Right. Like that. But then in a row application, you would probably do lots of things than this. Right. So let's go ahead and then try to write this over here. So now we can see that it goes ahead to say sorry to see you go something, you know. You refer to code 22 and you've chosen to start afresh, right? So we can see that is working fine. And then let's go ahead and then see, like, let's also print out the students after they defer, right? So let's print student one after they defer. So yeah, I think one way to do that is, let's say, what I'll do is I'll just put a new line at the end of each one of these, just so that it is a little bit cleaner. Alright, so I'm just trying to put some print statements in between them just to make it a little bit easier to look at them. Alright, so here we have puts. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. This should be something else. That's why I like to use the S strings. It's mostly easier to just work with these things. Or probably we don't need the S string. You remember the end keyword that we have, right? So what I can do is I can change it to be um, not two new line characters, just so that it is a bit nicer. So let's try this. Okay. So now we can see that it's the way that we expected it to be. So first of all, when they started, they were in cohort 19 and something. I'm not saying that you are going to decide to cohort 22 anyway, but I'm just saying. Okay. So then okay.
I think that's innuendo, so people shouldn't believe that. Carry on.
Okay, yeah. So then when we have that function called the method called the defer method, right? That's where we printed all of these things out. Then as part of that, you can see that now when we print the students, you can see that their cohort is now 22, right? So like I said, in other implementations, we could have maybe currently maybe he hasn't started a cohort yet, so we could have made it something to maybe do something like yet to start or other things, right? But for now, this will do, right? So if we have other um, things like the do task or do other things, we could write the function or the method. I keep saying function, but function methods, but they're the same, right? But usually, let's say in an argument, you would want to say method, but to be correct, you it's actually a method because we are inside of a class, but they're really the same thing mostly. So any other method else that we have is going to be something like that. So all of these are instance methods, right? Because it references the instance that we are talking about. Okay. Yes. So there are other times that we are going to work with other things that are not really specific to an instance. Like it doesn't depend on the instance, right? So let's say that we have something like this here. We have, let's say, a variable we call school name, and this here that I'm doing is called a class attribute. Okay, so because this is outside of a specific instance method that we have here. Okay, I see people have their hands up. Um, any questions? Um, Onye Kuchi. Yes, the name is a little bigger for me, so Onyebuchi, right?
Yes, yes.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to sorry, I wanted to draw you back a little bit. Can you please go through the code you've written so far, like, and explain? Because it seems like confusing. I'm confused somehow. Sorry.
All right. So what happened is that we talk about classes, and we say that when we need to create uh, a new instance of a class, there's this special method called the init, which is the first method or the first thing that is run when we initialize a class. So we listed a few attributes. So the attributes are the things that are specific to the user or like specific to the instance. For example, a student can have a name, an age, a course, the cohort, other things, right? But then these are the few attributes that we chose to work with. So this initializer function over here is going to be the first thing that is going to be run. So when we call the um, or let's see, when we create the student, for example, over here, right, you can see that we are creating a student variable, or what we would say an instance. We are passing in all the values that we wanted, right? The name, the age, the course, and the cohort, right? So these things that we are passing is going to be the first thing that is going to be run, and the one who takes care of that is the init method, right? So that's why we have this init method over here, and then to be able to print out the information about the user nicely, we needed this other method called the str, or the magic str, which is basically returning a string representation of how or of how we want to see this object. If you understand, right? So we have a student one, but then when we print it out, we are going to receive some data that is not very like friendly to us. It's going to show us where it is in memory, but then we would like to see it in a friendly way, like what we've been seeing so far, like something like this, right? So we used that str method to give us this. So we essentially just told it that whenever someone needs the string representation of the this instance or this object, just return the name of the person, the age, the course, and their cohort in this particular format. And that's what we see when we have this. Right? This what it returns for us. Then we went ahead and then talked about, let's say, the different things that a student can do, which one of them happened to be to defer. We said that to defer, they would have to give us the code that they want to defer to, and then the option that they want to have, let's say, either to start afresh or to continue from where they deferred from, or at the position where they deferred from. Right. And really, that's everything that we've talked about so far. We have function that would initialize the whole class object. Then we also have one function that is going to um, retain the string representation so that it's easier to print it out. Then we have another method which is going to handle the deferral for students. All right, that's in a nutshell what we've talked about so far. Hopefully that clears up a few things.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
All right. IB group, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question or is already?
Okay, I have a question, please.
Okay.
Hello, Maxwell. I still have a question. Sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. In the method, the for the in the deferred method, that place you initialize to cohort, does it mean that self dot cohort, like at as at that stage, is now reassigned to cohort? I don't understand what happened there, please.
Okay. So this the thing. You see that if you let's say we are in cohort 19. Okay, I am in cohort 19 and I want to defer to cohort 22 or cohort like a different cohort. Right? So after I've deferred to a different cohort, my cohort now becomes that cohort. So now I'm going to move from the cohort that I was before. This is the previous cohort, which is this over here, right? Now that cohort is going to be changed to the cohort that I want to defer to. Okay, is that clear? Onyebuchi, is that okay? Do you get why that is the case now?
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if he can still hear us, but that's the reason why. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir. Yeah, I understand. I
Okay.
understand now, but anyways, maybe I will understand later. Let me just not drag you people back.
All right. Maybe just to reiterate, it's just that previously, okay, let me try to use this one. So initially, this person was in cohort 19. Then they wanted to defer to cohort 22. Right. So right after they defer to cohort 22, their cohort is no longer cohort 19. So then that cohort had to be changed. Like the cohort for that student had to be changed to the new cohort that they are now in. Right. So that's why. Okay. Um, I think if your hand is up. Is it a question or is from a previous hand raise?
No, carry on, carry on. I'm good.
Okay, right. Okay, so we've seen this so far here. So yeah. So now the other thing I was trying to say is that sometimes we would have methods that are not really specific to a particular instance or a particular object, right? But what is um like it is that it's, let's say, I wouldn't like to say global, but it applies to every student, right? So there are some things that applies to every student, right? So let's say that um, like the threshold, right? Let's say that the threshold that we are supposed to meet, right? It's I think 75, right? Or 80 or so. For now, maybe we can use 75, right? So you can see that this over here, this threshold is outside of every, or it's outside of any like any instance methods that we have, right? But then any instance can call or like can like reference this threshold here. But then let's go ahead and then let's say create another student just so that we can see it's working fine. So here, what I'll do is I'll say student two is equal to yes. Today I'm using my bosses. So that's going to be Ahmed. Uh, and then I also don't know the age. If it happens to be correct, that's fine. Let's say he's doing software engineering, and then he's also, let's just say he's in court 16. I don't know whether that court was all female, but let's just say court 17, since I know that one is next. Before I put you in a girls cohort. Okay, so now we have oops, oh boy. Okay, so I have student one and student two. Exactly, he could be a graduate as well. So uh, let's see this. We have student one. So I'll just go ahead and then have students student one printed out, and also I'll go ahead and then print student two. Right. So just for the sake of this, uh, I'm just trying to add enough spaces just to work with that. So now when I print student.py, I can see something and then Ahmed, right? So with the use of that str method, we are able to print out these things much neatly. Okay, so now I'm trying to use this to show something. And since we've already seen how the defer method works, what is going to happen is I'll just take it away for now. Right? So now that's what we are trying to do. So now I was saying that we have this threshold um, attributes that we have here. So this is called a class attribute. Okay, so there's a class attribute. So everyone in this class, or let's say, yes, everyone in this cohort is bound to this, or can access this. Okay, but for our case, let's say that everyone in our cohort is bound to get 75% before they can maybe proceed to the next thing that they have to do, or like the next sprint. Okay, so now here I can say something like print student one dot that. So here you can either do print student one dot name or anything like that. But what we want to do is to print student one dot threshold, right? So now we can see that if I run that now, student.py, you can see that is 75. Okay. Now again, if I print, I run the same thing for student two. It's also 75, right? But then maybe I'd like to do something here. Maybe let's just say that someone wants to play smart and then they want to do something like let's say this. You'd say student one dot threshold is equal to let's say uh, 50, right? They want to be able to get 50 and still pass, right? Let's see how that is going to play out. So um, I'll copy this and then print that one more time. Okay, so before that, I'll print a new line, right? And let's see what I'll do rather is to do this just so that it's easier to see. Uh, then student two is equal to that. I'll just copy these and paste them. All right. So let's try this one more. Oops. Let's get rid of this. Um, okay. Copy and paste that one more time. Then let's try. Okay, so just in case if you are not aware of this trick here, basically what it's doing is that like with the f string, I can just do this and then it's able to get it in this way, right? Just so that I wouldn't have to write maybe how you might do it normally, right? So you can see that for the first time, the student one dot threshold is 75, and the same thing for this. But then when I change the student one's threshold to 50, student two's threshold is still 75, right? So this over here is not really like specific to the instance or the specific student we are working with, because it is applying to every student, or it's a class attribute. So class attributes cannot really be modified by like an instance for it to apply to everyone, right? What we can do rather, or usually what this is used for, is for things like this, right? Let's say if you are writing like an application for, let's say, employee salaries or things like that, and they have a specific interest that every employee is uh, assigned, like let's say, um, it's assigned to, for lack of better words. So let's say that every year, every employee is, or every employee's salary is supposed to be increased by um, a specific percentage, right? That's going to be something that we wouldn't want to do for each user. It has to be for all the employees, right? So that's something that a class attribute is usually used for. And that's why I don't want to use the word global, because global has a different meaning in, let's say, Python. Like the namespace is different. So now, if you like to change this particular thing here, you would have to do something different. Okay, and that's where we would have these things called class methods. And class methods have a little bit different way of defining them. We have to bring in something called a decorator, right? And this the decorator is called the class method, right? So this class method, the decorator over here, is actually a function that has been declared or defined somewhere else. Okay, so what we can do here is call, like, just do this, and then here what I'll say is, let's say, update threshold, right? So here now you see for the instance method, we're using self, but then when it comes to the class method, we don't use self. What we use is the CLS, right? And we can also use class, because class already has a specific meaning in Python already, and that's the CLS that we have to use. So now what I'll have to say is the new threshold, right? So now we just say the new threshold is that. So now what I can say is the CLS dot threshold is equal to new threshold. Okay. So now what we've done is that using the class method, we are able to modify something that is in the class namespace. Okay, like something that is outside of any instance methods. Okay, so for the things here, these things here within the functions or the methods that have the self keyword, we call those guys like instance attributes, right? So like self.name, those things like that, they are instance attribute. But this guy over here is a class attribute because it's for the whole class. Okay, so now we can see that. So now let's look at an example of what is going to happen at this point here. So let's say now when I do students one dot threshold, or before I actually run this, let's come back here and then look at this. So when I do this, I can still see that student one is still at 50, right? So now let's say that instead of student one dot threshold, what I would rather like to do is to say student one dot update threshold, right? And I would like show like something that, and okay, well, after I run this, I'll let you rather tell me what you think is the difference here. So you may want to take a look at this, well, or I wouldn't clear the screen. I would run this as well, and then leave it there like that, right? So what do you think is different here, and is there something that you think we are missing out from the function that we created so far? Right? We created this function here to update this, but looks like it's not doing it well. Right? What do you think is the problem, or something like that? So here, I just want us to let's see. If you know this already, you can share your thoughts, or we can go ahead and then discuss it. So, why do you think that now that I did student one dot update threshold is not getting it correctly like that? It's very plain, but maybe if you don't look at it well, you might probably not see it. So, like, why do you think this is no longer updating correctly, but then it's still 75 like this? So, anyone would like who would like to take the chance? Okay, Ahmed.
Okay, maybe I can try.
Okay,
Okay, can you go back to the code, please?
so
Okay, the reason to why it's not updating, I think it's due to the print part. So we are supposed to
right.
print student one dot new threshold so that we can get the new threshold.
Okay, so we should
So
rather print student one dot new threshold.
yeah, I don't know if I'm in the right track or I'm lost.
Uh, okay.
Can I?
Okay,
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we come back to you, Ahmed. So
okay,
yes,
sure, okay, sure.
Israel.
And since it's the update threshold is a class method, we can just call it with the class name.
And just call it with a class name.
Yeah.
So how do you suggest we do that? Like, how can I write that?
Since it's a method of the student class, we can just call it with the student dot update
Okay.
threshold.
Student dot update threshold.
Let's try
Because
that way. That work.
like this.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. 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 And uh, Ahmed was also saying that it was part of that. So we should have done students something like this, new threshold, right? Ahmed, right. Something like this, right?
Yeah, something like that. Though, okay, let me just hear everybody's thoughts, cause I can
Okay,
see some
all right.
other hands have been raised.
Something. This gets me interesting. Okay.
I think IB group should come before I speak. His hand has
Yeah,
been
but
up. Yeah.
yeah, his son has been up for a while. Like,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh, it's the reason I have why it wasn't working is because the reference variable that we were using. You remember for the class method, we use the reference variable CLS. So that way it will be referring to the class in general. So if you need to update it, definitely you're going to use the class name dot the name of the method, which is the class. Uh, where you're commenting, I can see that that can work. The students dot update underscore threshold is equivalent to 50. That will work. I'm certain about that. Uh, I also saw somewhere, I'm not sure if it's going to work, if you can use CLS dot, I don't know, I'm not sure about that, but there are a number of ways you can access that. You can also do CLS dot maybe update. No, is it update? Yeah, update threshold is equivalent to 50. I'm not sure about that, but the first one I'm certain.
Okay, all right. So what I'll do here is okay. Let's test out um, Ahmed's first one, right? The one that we use the new threshold, right? So let's go ahead and then try that. Okay, so when I run, oops, sorry, I run student.py, uh, Ahmed, you see, we don't have anything, any attributes of this form, right? We hold on to
Yes.
this, yes. So
Yes.
we hold on to this one here.
Maybe
Now,
the reason why it's not working is because of the new underscore threshold.
yes, because we don't have any attributes of this name. So
Yeah,
Ahmed,
defined.
yes. So now, Samson and Israel are saying that we can do student.update as in all the like the name of the class itself and then pass in the method. Okay, let's go ahead and then try this as well. So we see that and we are still getting the 75. All right, still not working. Maybe let me see why. You see, we are talking about a function here, but you see how I'm doing this. I'm saying update threshold is equal to 50. So now here, what I'm doing is I'm saying that this update threshold here is equal to 50, if that makes sense, right? So I'm saying that the method itself is equal to 50. So you see that there's a method. So like it should have been
Mm,
called something like this.
I think we were not paying attention to the syntax.
Right?
Now I'm realizing I didn't include it as an argument. Sorry
Ah,
about that. Interesting.
So also like yeah, this is valid though, but then here's the one that I was
I
actually
think you're breaking
talking
again.
about. Right? This we could only do this so that
I think your
I don't
network.
know that we
No,
I think the class method should apply to. Sorry, can you hear me?
Your network is bad, sir.
Your network, sir.
We are struggling to hear you.
hey, Maxwell.
Uh, this this
Hey,
network is hello.
hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. I think we can hear you.
Hello, Maxwell. Okay, guys.
I think
So
it's his network. It's his network.
let him
Yeah,
just continue fixing the internet. But then up to this point, I think we all know why it was not working, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we were just supposed to put it into bracket, not is equal. So we are not supposed to assign it the value 50. We were just supposed to put the to add a parameter 50. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's why.
it's
So
funny how simple things can
yeah,
just slip you.
yeah. Okay, I think
And
he's
in
back.
fact,
Yeah.
when I was giving my remarks, I wasn't paying attention to that.
at all.
I was
Small
just paying.
mistakes.
I was just paying attention to the class name and the class
I was just looking at how
method.
it was called.
Yes.
Okay, okay, he's back. Okay, take your place, Maxwell.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, that's good.
yeah. We can hear
Okay,
you.
so now that we've seen this, let's try this method. Okay, okay. So now you can see that we 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 called it on student one, but now it's applying on both, right? So with class methods, it doesn't really care whether you use it on an instance or anything. It will still apply to the whole class. But then it's usually preferred to go this way rather than the one that I just showed. Right? But if you even use it for a specific class, sorry, a specific instance, it will still apply on every instance at all because it's a class variable or a class attribute and it applies to everyone. So let's say if ALX changes the threshold to, God forbid, 100, um, it will apply to all of us. Right. So that's how it works. Okay. So that's when we may want to use a class method when something has to apply to everyone who is using this class. All right. So that was something that I just wanted to use to see whether you were being pedantic because I think ALX is very keen on that, like very simple details and really yeah. So that's with this one over here. So if there was something else that we wanted to work with let's say class methods or let's say anything that we have to work with that is specific to anyone using this class, then it has to come within a class method, right? And there are times that we may also want to do something that is let's say um, doesn't care whether it's a class or an instance or whatever thing, right? It has to work regardless of whatever it is, okay? Like anytime or whatever it is, right? So um, let's say we all know that because currently I can't think of a lot of things on my head right now, but the one that I can think about right now is right, the day that we have to fill in our captain's log, right? So now what we can do is work with a few things. And as part of this, what I would ask, or like what I would like us to do, is to work with something called the date time module, right? So the user is going to pass in like the day, and then they're going to ask whether it is time to fill in the or like whether the captain's log is opened at this time, right? And we know that it's only mostly open on Fridays, right? The captain's log is on Friday, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's on fire.
Yeah. So here, this method that we are going to write now is really not dependent on the class, or let's just say that maybe it's something about then. This method could be anything at all. But then what we're trying to do is to say is that I mean it doesn't require whether it is part of the student, like regardless of who it is or regardless of whatever cohort that they are inside of, they are going to have the same day for the let's see the captain's log. So before we do that, let's go to the top of our file here, and then let's import one module that we'd use called the datetime module. And we'll be looking at the documentation as we do this. So here what I'll do here is it's called a static method, and static meaning that it doesn't care about this, or well, not that it doesn't care, like it doesn't depend on the class or on the instance or anything. it is just what it is. It is just going to give us some information. It's something like the standalone function that we have, right? It's just like a standalone function. But then because it happens to be within a class, we call it static, right? Because it doesn't depend on the class or the self. So let's just say it's not dynamic.
Oh,
Your network has
The
started
network
again.
is bad, bro.
Can't hear you at all.
But for the instance, this or values
Hey Maxwell.
changes
Hey Maxwell.
or anything like that.
Hello Maxwell.
It doesn't move. But hello.
Hey
Yeah.
Maxwell.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, your internet was breaking. Your sound you're breaking, but then now you're okay. Just continue.
Okay. Is it still okay now?
Yeah, no, it's okay. You're okay now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I was saying that this captain's log day, it's captain's log day, is really going to just take in like, let's say, um, mm, okay, let's decide. Should we take in a date so that we can use that as a way to learn the date time module a little bit, or we can maybe parse in like numbers to uh, be the days, right? Starting from zero as Monday through to six, right? Right. So, like, what do you guys think will be much more beneficial? See the datetime module and then use that as a way to, let's say, pass in a date and figure out whether that date happens to be a Friday, and then
Yeah.
say
The
whether
daytime module is better. At least we got to learn the concept.
okay. So yes, Israel.
Yeah, I think we should go with that. The daytime.
All right. So for that,
Wabikira
like I
maneno.
said, we will look at the documentation for a while, right? Just like normally, I like to instill that the documentation thing into people because I think it's very necessary, right? So, um, but if you are on the run and you like to just look at it quickly, you can also step into the interactive mode and then let's say import date time, right? And then here we can go ahead and then let's say get a help on the date time module so that we will see a few things. But you see over here, we may not really get quite well. We may not really get really cool things to work with, right? It's still fine over here, but then I think the documentation is much more better. But if you are maybe coding on the go and you already know what to work with, you can work with this one over here. But um, a few things that I would just like to mention would be this: we would go to the like the documentation itself, but we can see this date time over here, which we can pass in like the date, right? And it is in this format. We have the year, the sorry, yes, the year, the month, and the day, right? So what we do first of all is let's say let's just try something here. try this, right? So this how it works as I'll just say the datetime module. What it does is going to get the date, the month, and then the day, right? So these are things that we can work with. But um, okay, before I let's say anything else, this date time is different from this one over here. Okay, so that's what I was saying. That let's look at the documentation, and we are not going to look at everything. We're just going to be looking at specific places that we will work with, and also I like to take it from the parts where we are all learning it from scratch, just so maybe like just so it doesn't look so refined that like when you're trying it out and it's not working, it's crazy because sometimes when you are doing it by yourself when it's not working, it's hard. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just search for dates time. In my case, what I've done is I have downloaded the documentation so that like it's easier for me to just do some of these things, right? So give me a moment. Let me just go all the way to the top so that my search would start from the beginning. Okay, so now this like the daytime side. If you would like to work with the online version, that's also fine. But I like it from this place. So here I'll go to the daytime module. The that module is a little bit big, so we would uh, take a few look at it. So I'll be stepping through it uh, like I'll be moving from one place to the other and uh, talking about a few things. So um, just in case if you are, let's say, getting if you like getting lost a little bit, you can push me back. So here, what I like to do is I'll click on this link over here. It will take me to that particular date time module that we are talking about here. Right? So we have the date time thing here, right? So here what it does is that you can see how it's there like there's a constructor, right? So the constructor is that init method that we saw previously. So we have the year, the month, the day, the hour, the minutes, those kind of informations, right? And that means that if you are using the date time, what we can do is we can pass in the year, month, and day, and we will be fine because all the other ones are already passed in as default values. Okay, so there's also one that is going to be much more easier in our case since we don't care about the time and all those things. That is going to be this guy right here, the date. Okay, so the date time module it also has a specific method called the date, right? So there's a date and then there's a date time. Right? So if you want to combine the date and then the time together, then you would use the date time. But let's say if you're only interested in the dates, then that's what you would probably want to work with, right? So the date is what we are going to work with at this point. And here there are a few things here, right? So it might look a little bit different with what we are working with. But what I like to just mention is that we are going to use the default one, which is going to use Monday or zero as Monday. But then when we are using the ISO calendar, the things can be a little bit different. Right? So for here, what we use is the like the usual one, but maybe later you can get back and then see how this one also working. Right? But you get that idea, sir. Okay, so now what we work with is the date time, sorry, the dates, but then the module is called date time. Okay, so just so that maybe it wouldn't be confusing, but this is it. The module that we are going to work with is called date time, but inside of that module, there's a method called, or there's a, I think is it a function or a class? But there's something here called a date that we can work with. Okay, So now what we're just going to do is this. We're just going to create um, that object. Right. So what I'll do, go to Python. Right. So here what I'll do is I'll say from datetime import date. Right. And then here, like you can see from the beginning of this here is this. Uh, there are a few other things that can be. So the date object represents a year, a date, sorry, year, month, and day. So that's how it's written: year, month, and day, right? So there are a few things that we probably have to look at here. So you can see that, okay, you can see a class method over here, but we don't have to worry about that. There's a date, or there's a method called today, which will return the current local date, which is depending on where I am, right? So if I run it over here, based on my time, I'll get that date. If you're in a different time zone, you get that date for that time zone. So when I do dates, I would have to pass in the specific thing that we have, and it's a class. So um, we have to give it the thing that we are asking for, right? So here, today's date happens to be that fifth, right? So here, let's say I'll say B is equal to date, and that's going to be 2024. The month is February, which is 2, and the day is 5, right? So now if I say something like print D like this, I can see that I'm getting the dates like this, right? But then there are a few more things that we can do with this, and I can show that with the dir command or the dir, right? And I can see that it is there are a few things that we can work with. Uh, these ones over here, as you can see, are random methods or magic methods with a double underscore before and after. So you can see that here we are we have the day, we have the seed time, we have from ISO format and a few things which we can look at in the documentation. But let's look at a few things over here. So let's say that I can say the d dot month, right? So we are grabbing the month attributes from the object that we just created from the dates class. Right. So when I do that, I can see that like the day, sorry, the month is 2, right? And also I can check for something else. Let's say, what if we check for the weekday? Oops, sorry. The weekday over here is 0, but let's see what the weekday over here is actually trying to say. So um, got weekday. What is that one? All right. So the weekday over here, it returns the day of, sorry, it returns the returns the day of the week as an integer, where Monday is 0, and Sunday is 6. Right. So this is the one I'm trying to say that the over here, the default one that we have, the weekday is 0. Right. So that's what it is. But then the particular day for this. So when you are talking about the weekday, it is um, 0 base index, if you like to say, right? So Monday is 0 and Sunday is 6, just as we saw in the documentation. But there are different things that we can look at. So the month will return the month. This weekday over here would return the day of the week, which happens to be Monday, and Monday is 0. Okay, and the day over here itself, like the day attribute here, is the day of the date, like the date itself that we passed in, which is the 5. Hopefully that is making sense. Is it okay with everyone here so far? Okay. And one more thing here, we also have the ISO weekday, right? So the ISO weekday over here is going to be one. Okay. So if we are using the normal weekday, it's going to start from zero, but we are using the ISO weekday, it's going to start from one. So Monday is one, and you can assume that it goes from one to seven. Right? So that is how it's actually working in this sense, right? So um, now we can see a few things over here that we can see. So we are using numbers at this point to say whether it is Monday or Tuesday or anything of that sort. Right? So let's say that okay, well we're in the month of Lao, and I think 14th February is going to be on Wednesday. So if we are using um, the normal one, then Wednesday should be weekday two, and then the ISO should be three. Right? So let's try to do something like that. Let's say when we do vowels equal to date, and that's 2024. The month is still second or two, and the day is 14. Right? So here when I do vowels dot um, weekday, I see that it's two because 012, and then when I do vowels dot ISO weekday, it's three, right? So depending on what you might want to use, that's what you might take. The ISO is taking it from this side, and the normal weekday is starting from zero. Okay, and if any of these things is not making sense, all you can do is to check the documentation, and you would find what it's trying to say. All right, so um, that's what it's going to be. And let's say if you made a mistake and you'd like to change the day, you can just go ahead and then say that the day is actually something else. Right. So let's just say that for some reason the Boys Association has decided that Val's Day needs to be changed to uh, let's say like the day for the Val's Day is changed to, let's say, mm, a day that has already passed. So let's say it's now equal to three, right? So now you can see that, uh, like let's say this. Oh, okay. So what I miss here is that it returns the value. So we should get it, like we should save it, right? So what I say is vowels is equal to um, vowels equal to this. So we are saying that the vowels day is actually on third February, which is past. So meaning that we don't have to worry about getting chocolates or flowers or teddy bears or anything of that sort. Right. So when I print this out now, I can see that the Val's Day happens to be on third, right? So uh, by virtue of this, Val's Day is a past event in my calendar. So yes. Okay. So that was just by the way. So you can see that this is what is happening here. So we know that um, the um, what's the name again? The captain's log always happens on Friday. All right. So the user is going to give us a time, like a date, right? And we would have to go and check if the day part of the dates that they give us is actually Friday, and we can maybe either use the ISO weekday or we can use the normal weekday, depending on whichever one that is okay for us. We can use that. Also, like I'm saying, you don't always have to go to the documentation if you are over already here. You can do something like help and the objects that we are working with, and you can say today, right? So maybe you are looking at this today over here, and you are thinking, what does it do? You can just check it out, and then you can see that it returns, or this is what that is the current date or date time, which is something like that. Okay, so um, like I'm saying, every time you want to work with something, you look up the documentation, and you are going to figure out how it is working. the replace method that I just used, this how it works. You can either pass it in positional arguments with the year starting first, month, and then the day, just like you would set it up in the beginning, or you can give the specific ones that you would like to change, or anyhow that you would like to go with it. Right. And also, you might have probably seen this way that you are able to view that. And yeah, you can see that when we print out, okay, let me come here. So when I print out D, for instance, here, you can see that it's being printed. Okay, when you go to python.org, okay, I'll try to get it. But essentially, I'm coming. When you go to python.org, right, um, you would get that. Like, I think my internet is slowing down. Okay, so when you're on python.org, you come to their documentations, right? That the documentation side. Then you let's go to Python docs. Okay, so here you'd have to come to the library reference, and if you are looking for a specific version of Python, you might come to this place because that's the Python 3.8 that we are using. But I mean, well, most of it are about the same. There's maybe a few things, but here is it. You can go to library reference, and then here's where you can find them. Right? So um, mostly for the sake of making it easier, I like to search for them, right? So that it's easier to just find it. Okay, so when you can just search for it. But what I've done is to download it so that it's easier to um, work with them. All right, so yeah, okay. And maybe if you would like to download it, there's a link to download it. Okay, so okay, probably let me just share the link to the documentation. Okay, so back to this place here. Right. So you see that they are also having this double underscore method that we work with. Right. So it's equivalent to what they have here. Right. So everything that you or we've talked about with classes so far still apply. Functions, matching methods, all those things. So now let's come back to our function that we are trying to write, or our method that we are trying to write. We are trying to write a method that will look at the dates and check whether it's a captain's log day, right? So to make it fair, what if we say that from Friday to Sunday is a captain's log day, right? Because if you don't fill it on Friday, it will go into Saturday and Sunday. Or what do you think? Should we limit it to Friday alone, or should we make it that range from Friday to Sunday? What do you think?
I think the range one is better.
Come again.
Okay, okay. I was saying I think the range one is better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and then do that. It's really going to be something very simple. We're just going to check that. Let's say so. Um, for the sake of making it simpler, let's use the ISO weekday format. All right. So let's say if the dates ISO weekday um, is greater or equal to so it's going to start from Friday. So Friday is going to be 5, right?
Mm.
And okay, now I'm trying to write English for Python. Okay, so and less than okay, well, all right. So we can either leave it just like this, but I mean, oops, you know, users they always want to explore. So let's just say if it is greater or equal to 5, um, and dates ISO weekday uh, is less than or equal to, let's say, 7. Right. Uh, we probably could have written this in a different way, but making this easier. So here we say that if it is that, then we are going to return true, else we return false. All right. So that's really all that this function is going to do. All right. It's just going to return true or false depending on the day that we have. So if the day is an ISO, or let's say if the day is Friday all through to Sunday, then it's going to be a day for captain's log. Else it's going to not be. All right. So now let's check that. So we've seen these things already. So let's get rid of them. Okay. So now, like I was saying, this is also not specific to the like whether it's this or that, but we usually call them on the instances themselves. So let's say student one dot is captain's log day. Right, and the first thing we would have to do is to pass in the like the dates, right? So you can pass it in directly like this. You can just say 2024, and let's use today's date to check whether it is um, like
If it's true or not.
yeah. Let's check that to see whether it's is a valid thing. So with that, what I'll do rather is to say this. Let's say the result, that so that we can do something with it. So the result is equal to whatever this is going to return. So let's say if result, or just to make it verbose, or say if reverse, sorry, if result is true, then we'll print today is a captain's log day. Have you logged it yet? Else, today is not a captain's log day. Enjoy your day, something like that. All right. So let's see how this is going to go. All right. So we are going to call the is captain's log day function or method and save the results in the results variable, and then use that to check something. Right? We could have used this one, but it's very long. That's why I had to save it in a different variable. So let's see how that's going to work out. So here we print or we run the students. Oops. Okay. My bad. Right. Actually, should be from date time import date. Or if it was this way, then I would have to do date time dot date. But I like to just call date. So this how I would have to import it. Okay. So let's go back and then try that. Okay, so now you can see that today is not a captain's log day, and we are aware of that, right? So today is not a captain's log day. Right? So now let's see, what if okay, Friday happens to be 9, right? So um, what if the day on Friday happens to be 9? We run that, right? So now you can see that it says today is a captain's log day. Have you logged it yet? Right. So the day over here is Friday. That's currently 9. Right. In the same way, if we make it, let's say it's 10, it's still a captain's log day because 10 is going to be Saturday. In the same way, 11 is also going to be Sunday, and Sunday is also a captain's log day. But then when we go to Monday, oops, when we go to Monday, Monday is not a captain's log day, right? So we can see that our date time is working all right up to this point. Okay, so like we've seen a few things so far, and it might not be a lot at this point, but then at least we've seen how the date time module could be used. But then there's a few other stuff that we could have checked. There's this method over here. This is the string f time that we can look at, which is to return a string representing the date, and it's controlled by blah 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 like that, right? So it's like a way that we're able to, let's say, make the date a little more um, friendly, if we should say, right? But like you can check out the documentation to, let's say, look at it a bit more, right? So there are these ways that we can look at it, and the full like the full thing, like the full, let's say, format that you can use for it is also available there. So let's say if you like to look at the date in a much more nicer way like this, you do something like this, right? So the documentation has all of these things laid out, right? So I think it's somewhere around where is it? Well, can't find it now. But if you go through the documentation, you would find it. Okay, so uh, can't find it now. But like it's somewhere within the documentation where they show everything that it is supposed to be. Right. So, okay, yeah, there it is. So if you're trying to use it, when you use a percentage A, this is what you are going to get, and a few other things. Right. So going through the documentation, you'll be able to find most of these things out. Okay, so I will stop here and then ask if there are any questions so far with whatever we've done today, and any contributions is also appreciated. Maybe if there's anything that I mentioned that was out of line, you can bring me back on track. Yes. So I'm open to questions and contributions now.
Hey, why is it so quiet, guys?